Welcome back to Parenting Preteens. Today we are looking at the cognitive and moral development of middle childhood. So let's jump right in. Alright, so in this stage of middle childhood, concrete operational processes can describe the cognitive development level of the child. So this means that children can only think logically if the problem or the object they are thinking about is real and practical and concrete. So the thought processes in their head still relies on images and things that are real, touchable, seeable. So abstract thoughts and ideas and concepts, things such as emotions, for example, are harder to understand because they cannot be touched and seen practically. What this then means is that children learn better when they can practically engage with what they are learning, when the things that are spoken about can be touched and seen and experienced. This has quite an important impact on emotional vocabulary and how children learn about their emotions, because emotions is such an abstract concept. It's hard for them to understand and actually verbalize what is happening on the inside, because cognitively they cannot yet make 100% or gain a good understanding of what it is that's happening, because it is so abstract. So in the counseling space, and what I usually suggest if a child is in the process of increasing their emotional vocabulary, so learning about their emotions, how it looks in an individual, how it's felt in the body, to make use of charts. So images of emotions, faces, a face that looks happy and sad and ashamed and surprised and shocked and furious. So to actually see pictures of a face that looks like the emotion, which is the abstract part, makes the abstract much more concrete. And this helps a child a lot with their emotional intelligence and starting the process of developing their emotional intelligence and regulating their own emotions, as well as recognizing the emotions in others. Okay, so let's just see if I touched on what was most important. Yes, they also learn better when they are given the opportunity to try things for themselves. So that experiential learning. Right, so they also start to become less egocentric thinkers and decentration starts taking place. This is quite big in terms of a child's psychological well-being. What this means is that they start noticing that people are different from them and that there are different views and experiences around a single event. So as a toddler and a younger child, it's all about what I want, what I need. I want this now, and if I don't get it, I'm going to throw a tantrum. Whereas in the middle childhood phase, they start to recognize that people's opinions might differ from them, or that their experiences in a similar situation might be different. So they start to notice differences in appearance, differences in personality. They start to compare themselves to each other, because it's not just about me and what I want, but looking at how other people function, how other people play. So the social comparison becomes quite a big challenge for them in this space, because for the first time they are recognizing that some people are better than them at certain things, or some people find it easier to make friends than they might do. And this is because they are less egocentric thinkers. It's not all about me, myself, and I. They are learning the process of empathizing and walking in another person's shoe, or understanding that we can't always play my game. So that becomes quite a tricky space to navigate, because it's a big change. And then the decentration just means that they are able to understand that one situation can have different experiences, or each individual can have a different view on what just happened. All right, then the learning. So the development of children's memory is closely related to their ability to solve problems. And then language is central to learning and cognitive development. I'm going to touch on this now as we go to the next slide. So looking at the importance then of language as well as emotional literacy and a child's ability to actually take in the information that they hear through language and making it their own and gaining an understanding of what it is that an individual is saying. All right, so environmental influences on learning. How does the environment affect children's thinking and learning? All right, so language and emotional literacy is huge. So we know that children learn from what they see, what they experience, what they hear, what's around them. Learning is a very social thing. So when it comes to emotional literacy, actually engaging with children on a level where their emotional intelligence gets to develop, we have to use emotive language. So this is to bring in emotions into our daily conversations. So we start to teach children then, which is the learning process, that there isn't just mad, sad, glad, but there is angry, furious, frustrated, annoyed, irritated, all these different intensities of emotions. If children don't have emotional vocabulary, if they haven't been taught that there are words to describe what they are feeling on the inside, they use their behavior to show us what they are feeling. This is where the saying goes to always look deeper than just the surface level of what a child is showing you with their behavior. There's always a reason why a child is coming across as oppositional or blunt or socially withdrawn or rude or stubborn, all these things that we tend to describe our children as. It might be that they do not have the words to actually say that I am so uncomfortable in this position right now, I don't know how to handle it, so I'm just going to shut off completely. And I'm going to act as if nothing bothers me, and on the inside I have this turbulent energy and anxiety because I'm getting reprimanded, but I don't have the words to say that I feel so overwhelmed right now and I feel so bad about myself because I've been naughty or whatever the case may be, that they just blank face and look like they don't feel a thing. So this is very, very important to teach children that certain situations might provoke certain feelings and how that looks in their body. A lot of times what I do in the counseling space as well is to use colors and images to help make it more concrete. So, for example, if we are starting with emotional literacy, we might take a sketch of the body or outline the child's body and start with the emotion, the simple ones, the happy. How does happy feel? Where do you feel happy in your body? Because that makes it very concrete. And then we can look at the face. Some children say they can feel it in their eyes, it sparkles, or their mouth, it grins, or they feel like they have a lot of energy. So we start recognizing or showing children that they can recognize what they are feeling through what they're experiencing in their body. And that's a learning process that doesn't come very I want to say spontaneously or naturally. Some children, it does happen, but most not. So that's where we start making the emotions more concrete. You can ask, what color is sadness? And how does sadness feel in your body? Is it a heavy feeling or is it a light and fluffy feeling? So it makes the abstract more concrete. And it gives them a sense of control and a sense of knowing, okay, I'm feeling frustrated because I can't get this math problem solved. Now I can actually say, I'm frustrated because I can't solve this problem, versus just pushing the paper away and walking away, or saying, I can't do this, or I'm not good at maths, because they don't have the words to describe what they're going through internally. So it's very important for parents to look at the behavior that they're seeing in their child and understanding what might be behind it. We are, further when we're looking at psychosocial development, we're going to look at some ways to talk about emotions and teaching the literacy and language of emotion, but it sounds something like if you see your child's starting to go like this, maybe they're doing their maths homework and you can just see the body is tensing up and it looks like your child is frustrated. Then you say, I can see your hands are clenched into fist. Might you be feeling frustrated? And then your child can bounce off you and say, yes, I don't know what to do. And in that space, you jump in and say, all right, let's take it one step at a time. Or you notice, it seems like you look a bit sad today. Your eyes look a little bit sad to me today. Is everything okay? Or you, in essence, notice the behavioral and you link it to the emotive. Okay, then social learning. People learn by observing others. So this is just that component again that we learn through what we see around us. So thinking, reasoning, imagining, planning, and valuing are much more social than individual in nature. And that's where peer and parents influence the learning process a lot. This is where we learn what is acceptable and what is not, especially in terms of valuing and planning. How does the day look throughout? A child learns to plan tasks by seeing a parent plan tasks, or talking about today we are going to da-da-da-da-da, and the child learns, okay, I can have a sense of control when I also plan I'm going to do this and then this and this. And for some personalities that comes natural, and for some it doesn't. So this is just very important in terms of that thing that we do, or say at least, about do what I say and not what I do. So that confuses children so much because, again, they're concrete thinkers. They see and they learn through what they physically see. It's concrete. I can touch it, hear it, smell it, see it. So if a parent says that in this family we value family time, but every weekend everyone does their own thing, or we're on our phones and we don't really discuss how our days were, or how our friendships are looking, or what we learned, then the value that is expressed by words is not expressed in action. So it gives a mixed signal of we value family, but my parents don't even know that my favorite game is, I don't know, Roblox. So that's an important thing, that what you actually say is congruent with your behavior, because your behavior is so much more going to be telling your child how to think, how to reason, how to imagine, how to interact with people. You know, we can teach our children, yes, be kind and tolerant towards your friends that are different. But if we stop at the roadblock and we yell at the police because why again are they looking at my ID but not the person behind me's ID, then we're not showing tolerance, but we're preaching tolerance. So that's a very important thing. It gives mixed signals to children. So they, when they're reprimanded, it's also, okay, but why do I get into trouble for this, but you don't get into trouble for this? And they won't verbalize it because they know that's going to get them into trouble, but they will be thinking that. And this is also where children learn to manipulate, to say things that they know will give them a positive face or a positive reward, but internally that's not what they're feeling. So that's where we learn, yes, I'm good, I'm fine, because if I actually say that I'm not fine, am I going to get into trouble? Or in this family, we're happy and we love life. So if I don't feel that way, I just suck it up and I sit with it because I know that's not how our family does it. So those are very important aspects. Experiential learning. So children learn much better through experience. That's the creativity and curiosity that they have, all the questions that they ask, and that love for learning in this stage. They just want to know more and experience more, and that's a good thing. It also helps a lot with their sense of mastery, which is a big, big part of middle childhood development in terms of their psychosocial well-being, so their psychological and social functioning. Their sense of mastery, in essence, is their perception of, are they able to do things skillfully, or do they fail when they do things? A child's belief about themselves and their ability is thus the most important part of the middle childhood phase in terms of how they view themselves and their ability to master things and have influence on the environment. So, a child can either learn the mastery orientation or the helplessness orientation. So mastery orientation is that place where they feel, you know what, I'm capable of doing things. I'm good at doing certain things. I'm going to try new things because I'm most likely I'm going to be good at it. And if I'm not, I'm going to be okay with it. Whereas the helplessness orientation is where the anxiety and the lack of self-esteem plays into one another. So it's that space where a child isn't given enough opportunity to try things for themselves and be praised for what they do well and be taught that, okay, this is a learning experience if they don't do well. So helplessness orientation is the child that says, I can't do this. I'm never good at maths. I don't even want to try, where they kind of get this perception that they are not able to do things well or to do things at all, or where they compare themselves a lot to their peers because they feel a sense of helplessness, that they are not good enough. They cannot master things that others can master. So in that space, it is extremely important to curate and to encourage a child to explore and try new things. And you encourage them and you praise them for being willing to try new things. Even if they didn't get a place in the play, they still tried for a place in the play, and you praise that behavior. And you encourage them to try again. And you tell them a story of a time that you failed and you tried again and it was wonderful. And rather than shaming and putting down where a child doesn't perform or do as well as we would have hoped, they really do view and see how we react to them failing. So if we have a sullen face and we seem a bit, or you should have tried harder, those types of things make them feel a sense of helplessness. Okay, moral development, our last section. So this is the determination or a child making sense of what is right and wrong. So in this stage, we are at level 1 and level 2 of morality. This is part of Kohlberg's theory. I'm going to break it down by reading through some of my notes just to show you the stages from stage 1 to 4, which is the middle childhood phase. And I would like for you to think and note where your child might be at this moment. What's working in terms of teaching what's right and wrong, and having them do what is socially or morally or value-wise acceptable. Okay, so the level 1, pre-conventional morality. For most children up to the age of 10 or around there, the personal consequences of an action determines whether it is judged good or bad. So what is right is what the child can get away with or what is personally satisfying. So moral reasoning at this stage focuses on concrete factors, again, such as reward and punishment, and is self-interested or egocentric. So this is about, grade 3, grade 4, it starts to change a bit. So stage 1 of this section is punishment and obedience orientation. So in the first stage of moral reasoning, so this is the very first stage, so this is going to be younger children, the goodness or badness of an action depends on whether it is rewarded or punished. So children obey the rules in order to avoid punishment, but they might not consider the act wrong if it won't be punished. So an example of this stage is a child would steal something because, or a child, let's say, a child wouldn't steal a sweet if they know that they're going to be punished for it, or they're going to get into trouble, or that there's going to be a consequence. But in their heart, they might not think stealing a sweet is bad because they want a sweet, and sweets are good and they taste yummy. At the stage 2, it's instrumental hedonism or hedoism. I always struggle to say that. hedonism. You can read that there. A person at this second stage of moral development bases their judgments or their moral judgment on whether the consequences results in a benefit for themselves or for a loved one. So here you start seeing that it's less egocentric. So the person obeys the rules in order to gain a reward or to satisfy personal needs or relational needs. In level 2, which is then the conventional morality, the main thing is that towards the middle of, or towards the end of middle childhood, some children become capable of more sophisticated moral reasoning. And at this stage, it's guided by doing what family, society, or people in power expect. So children are capable of conventional moral reasoning when they have internalized the standards of their authority figures. So in other words, they have made the moral principles that they have learned, here again learning, their own. And they follow these principles even when authority figures aren't there to enforce them. So in this stage, you can see it's much more about what societal influence, societal expectations, people in authority and family deem as morally good or morally bad that directs their moral decision-making and behavior, rather than rewards and punishment or gaining something versus losing something. So in this, you get 2 stages again, stage 3 and 4. You have good boy or good girl morality, which in essence just means that a child tries to be a good person in their own eyes or the eyes of others. So at this stage, what is right is what is pleasing to others or helps or approved by others. An action is acceptable if the person involved has good intentions, but an action is wrong if the person is acting selfish for reasons. So this a lot of times you hear as the children say, they're so rude, where they start to recognize that if a person does something for themselves, or we only want to play this game and not that game, then the person is deemed as bad. She's a bad friend because we only ever play what she wants to play. So the good boy, good girl, bad boy, bad girl morality there. Then the stage 4 is authority and social order, maintaining morality. So at this stage of moral reasoning, the individual believes that moral people are those who do their duty to keep society going and avoid the breakdown in social order. So it's that place, if everyone did it, then the world would be chaos. At this stage, what is right is what upholds the laws of society. So an act is always wrong, regardless of motive or circumstances, if the act violates rules or harms others. This is so accurate. It's that place where an individual would, or a child would say that if you steal bread from the store to feed your family, it is wrong because we are not allowed to steal. So the deeper processes of looking at why a person might be stealing something isn't not fully developed yet. So it's that place of we arrive at school at this time because that's what my teacher says. It's also that thing, it just reminds me now when I was a child as well. If your teacher says it, then it is so. Where if my teacher says that I'm doing my math this way, then I'm doing my math this way. There might be other ways to do it, but my teacher says so, so this is how it's going to be. So it's the maintaining the social order, what the law says, what the rules say, the school rules, all that jazz. Right, so you most likely would have picked up where your child is at this moment, and then you can kind of just see how they move through the stages if they are still in the level 1. So the year 3s and 4s, and level 2s starting from, the year 5s to 7s around there. All right, that is it for today. We are going to go over to the psychosocial development next week, where we're getting into the nitty-gritties of the parent-child bond, peer relationships, siblings, friendships. My goodness, I think some of the things that are a bit more challenging, where the real psychological well-being of a child is influenced by. All right. then I will see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your week.